Drink the Nation is a podcast for thoughtful, informed adults, preferably with a pour in hand. The views and opinions expressed on the show are those of the hosts and guests only, and do not reflect the views of any employers, institutions, licensing boards, government agencies, bourbon distilleries, or family members, especially our family members. They've asked us to be very clear about that. This show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing said here should be taken as medical, psychiatric, legal, or professional advice. If you're in crisis, call a professional. If you're mad at something we said, we suggest journaling or emailing us with civility. We're here to challenge ideas, not diagnose strangers. We're clinicians, not your clinicians. And we have the bourbon to prove it. Let's go. And we are on. All right. Welcome to episode 2, Shrink the Nation. We are back. Welcome, my fellow co-hosts, gentlemen. Welcome again. For everyone who is deciding to listen in, we're back. Wonderful smiles from all. Well, today we're gonna pick up where we left off. America back on the couch, talking about this time. We're talking about cognitive dissonance.
So excited!
First, I'm really excited. I'm quivering with delight. This is a fun topic, but
I don't know if that's delight, but all right,
joy. But big focus today is why America is clinging to contradictory beliefs, how tribal loyalty overrides evidence, and why the brain hates admitting it's wrong. With a little bourbon in hand. Well, for those of us who got bourbon, everyone did, but we got something.
Not everyone did.
Not everyone did.
Episode 2, and he's already busted.
Episode 2, we've already broken protocol, but that's okay. Rules were made to be broken. That's what cognitive dissonance is all about anyway. But for the interact, I'm David. I am, again, the in-house tech support guy. And I think exactly what Jimmy Fallon was thinking about on Saturday Night Live when he was playing that character. You do not want to call me, if you remember. Yeah. You're welcome.
That was deep, buddy.
That guy. Yeah. I went back. But
deep and deeply not funny. That's rough.
It wasn't. No, but it's true. I love spreadsheets so much. But
I know it.
I am still a psychiatrist somehow. Nobody called me up, probably because I haven't posted anything yet. And I'm still served in the military. So that's me. Oh, today I am drinking Angel's Envy, and I am sure I've been getting shit for it, but it tastes pretty good.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's got a kind of sweet, maybe a little bit sweeter than I'd prefer, but I think it's been in port barrels, right?
Port. Yep.
It's got port. So that's pretty good.
Not pork.
Port. I said port. I didn't say pork. Port.
Yeah.
Port.
It's
barrels,
not like in barrels of pig feet.
No.
Port.
No.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, I'm Rob. 25 years a psychiatrist. 30 years in the military, various stripes. Won't tell you where I currently am, but I am still actively in the military. I'm drinking today. So I was tempted to drink Old Crow today. And when I went in to buy this stuff, I came to a memory of the last time I drank Old Crow and ended up waking up 30 pounds lighter than I went to sleep. It tasted like a cat had shit in my mouth, and I was in an alley behind a dumpster. So I didn't. I actually went with another historic bourbon, and this one's Evan Williams. It's a cheap bourbon, so...
Show us the bottle, though. You got to show us the bottle.
It's plastic, yeah.
Plastic?
It's a plastic bottle. I didn't want to buy an entire fifth.
Good job, doctor.
Yeah. So Evan Williams was a Welsh immigrant, and he has supposedly started the first bourbon distillery on the banks of the Ohio River in Louisville. So that's his history. I don't think the current distillery actually, other than his name, carries any connection to him, because David's going to ask, it is 78% corn. Yeah.
That's a lot of corn, right?
78% corn, 10% rye, 12% barley. Makes for a sweet bourbon. And honestly, as I will say over and over again, and I cannot wait until people are listening and actually arguing with me on this point, I don't think there's any such thing as a great bourbon. I think they're all just good bourbons, and they're tasty. So anyway, that's cheers.
Cheers. This one is pretty good, actually. I'm gonna pour more of it and see where my brain takes me.
Nothing wrong with that.
By the way, I still don't have my Superman
Yep.
David Cornsweet
You don't.
poster,
Obviously.
and
Yeah.
neither does Keith. So
Yeah.
what the hell?
Yeah, I'm not going to have that.
He wouldn't
He's
put it
supposed to
up.
send it.
I sent him a 3-foot by 6-foot David Cornsweet. He doesn't have a shirt on. It was supposed to go behind him. He clearly just didn't approve.
It's in the bedroom though.
Don't know what's the
It's in
matter
his-
with the two of you, but I'll jump in. I'm Keith.
He's
24 years a psychiatrist. 12 years in the military. Depends how you want to count it. Years in industry, academic psychiatry. I'm not drinking bourbon.
no.
What are you drinking?
Today, water. Drinking water. It's been a rainy weekend
Gosh.
here
Okay.
in South Central Texas. So water with a little bit of vodka in it.
Okay.
Water with a little bit of vodka. Potato water.
Yeah, potato
What's
water.
that? Old potato. Okay. Well, welcome.
Maybe every episode needs a designated driver.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, or not. Well, we'll see. We'll see how this one plays out. If I can say cognitive dissonance by the end of this episode,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're
we're
doing okay. You're doing all
I'm
right.
already struggling with it now, but it does the vodka thing does remind me of when we went to Vladivostok in like 2006. I think it was 2006. It was one of their major anniversaries, and they were having one of those parades with all their military, with their tanks driving through the street and everything, and we were wearing our dress uniforms. It was freezing cold. It was July, of course, so it was freezing cold and terrible out. And they gave us these little thimbles of vodka that was homemade, and it was, I think,
Delicious.
It just was
Delicious.
like gasoline. Oh my god, it was like gasoline. I don't remember much else, but it was a good time. So,
Well, thanks for sharing that, David.
That's the first time that he met Vladimir Putin.
Mm-hmm.
right. So
Never
that's
made
fun.
eye
That's
contact.
fun. Anyway, all right. So back to cognitive dissonance. We're going to throw this term around a lot, so I think it does help to define it a little bit. I'm just going to give you a loose definition and say it's the mental discomfort you feel when your brain is holding two conflicting beliefs, attitudes, or values and can't decide who to believe, logic or loyalty. It's like your psyche is screaming, this doesn't add up, and your ego replies, shut up, we're doubling down.
Well, what do you mean by ego, David? Explain that for folks.
So if I'm being really, really honest, I do not like the whole id, ego, super ego concepts because they are entirely too magical to me, and I've never liked them. But the entire, it's like the chariot rider, right? You had the concept of the horse being the id. Is that the way that they describe it? The id, the horse is the id. It just wants to ride all over the place. The chariot is the ego, or the person controlling the chariot is the ego. Is that right? The ego. And then the super ego is basically I think it's just the
Wheels, the physics
Yeah,
of
the
it.
worst.
Basically
This
saying,
is
no,
the worst.
You can't do that. Is that what it is?
It's a bad one.
Is that
Ever
what you
heard.
heard it for? Yeah.
So I
Well, I thought it was
actually
basically the super ego is your dad saying, no, you can't do it at all.
yeah,
You're an idiot.
don't do that.
Like,
Yeah,
stop
no,
doing
no,
that.
No,
No,
chariots
and
for anyone.
when I reference ego, and I probably will frequently reference ego, I'm not referencing Freudian ego. I'm referencing something more along the lines of our sense of self, who we are to the world, our ability to hold an integral persona that we project and stay consistent, and the struggles that come with that, because it is hard. And ego, or cognitive dissonance, plays a huge role in this. We have all these things that we believe in, that we want to believe in, people we want to believe in, and ultimately when they do things that diverge from what we feel is the image that we believe in, or the message that we believe in, or the moral that we believe in, you have to incorporate that in order to maintain some integrity in your thought process. And we run into this Constantly. In fact, I would argue our nation was built on cognitive dissonance. We are a nation of all men are created equal, and we had slaves. That is a challenge. That is a dissonance that we have to manage constantly. Not just that one, in a federal system in which we have 50 states and 50 ways of doing things, we are perpetually confronted with cognitive dissonance. This is our national character. And then these are all the demonstrations of that character, and they're all different, and they're not always easily rectified. Keith, you either have terrible gut issues or...
Yeah, no, I'm just, you're making me twist in my seat. Yeah, I think that's well enough said. I mean, we go back to the base, right? It's Franz Kohut. It's the father of self-psychology. A little bit of a departure from the Freudian ideas, focusing more on the subjective sense of self and who you are and what's your central agency. But yeah, I think at the core of it, Rob, you didn't say it terribly poorly or poorly at all. When you hold, just at the end of the day, right? When you hold two conflicting thoughts in opposition, it's a human crisis. We don't have to get high and mighty about it, right? Just bring it down to its base level. Two conflicting thoughts is existentially a crisis for a human that's well-fed, well-housed, well-watered, has a mate. You have all your basic needs met. Yeah, you can talk about Rogerian pyramid schemes, you can talk about Kohutian themes, you can talk about Freudian themes, you can talk about Ericksonian stages of development, but they all overlap. And when we have the basic needs met and you start focusing on your sense of self, whenever there's two ideas in conflict, it's a fucking crisis. It just is. And I think, David, what you're trying to get at is what do we do when we have two thoughts in opposition to one another, regardless of the facts that are behind those thoughts? Our human brains aren't evolved to drive on fact. It's just not our biology.
Well, I think where we want to start here is, why the hell are we talking about it in the first place? And that's because the natural progression, or at least from this standpoint right now, from where we started from our last episode, was with the grandiosity, with the narcissism, with some of the sociopathy of the nation. And that progresses into a lot of the cognitive dissonance that we are seeing play out as a nation. And so how are we getting to that? Because there's a lot of that we're seeing. And how do we get there? I say we start with, why does one turn into the other? And then hopefully we'll try to understand, well, what do we do about that? Because that's what I think that's what people want to know.
Well, it's a challenge with the system that we have and the size of the nation that we have, is that we can dial this microscope or binoculars out or down as far as we want to do it in a, say, psychotherapy environment. There is looking at the moment, and then there's looking at the background to that moment, and then there's looking out from that moment. That's, I think, one of the challenges that we're faced with. Not only are we a federal system that has a unified sense of self, a national sense of self, we have 50 states that have an internal sense of self, with maybe the exception of Rhode Island.
That was funny.
Yeah. All right.
Why even now? I lost the state of Rhode Island.
Little Rhodey.
The city of Rhode Island.
Yeah. They have a sense of self, and all of us have an identity that I think we identify with as an American, and a set of maxims and ethos that fits with being an American. And then there's all these other things that we end up identifying with, whether it be I identify as a Democrat, I identify as a Republican, or even beyond that, it's the things that we end up doing that simply do not fit. Think of any conflict we've engaged in the last 50 years, 70 years, that it doesn't necessarily, there is a significant part of our population that does not feel that it fits with our national character, and it creates cognitive dissonance, and we're constantly dealing with it. We're constantly fighting it. When you are a member of a political party and you feel this is a gut level experience. You're feeling like, all right, I'm a part of this group. We have it right. We're there. We just need to carry this through. And then something happens. Some leader of the party does something that has to be engulfed. It has to be brought in order to manage that cognitive distance. And sometimes it's easy, and sometimes it gets really, really hard. It's a challenge to take this behavior of a party pillar and incorporate it and maintain that sense of self. And I watch this. I watch it on all the news channels. Every Sunday when they have their political stuff, you see the right and the left debate why something that someone in their party did was the right thing, even when there is a great deal of cognitive dissonance that sets between it, and it makes us uncomfortable. And that discomfort has to be rectified. It's an anxiety that has to be managed. And unfortunately, there's a couple of routes you can go. One, you can disavow, or two, you can accept. And either direction creates downstream anxiety that gets us to a place in which everyone feels unsettled. We feel unmoored. And one thing we need is to have those moors, those things that tie us in to history and the future. And Evan Williams bourbon. It's the other thing we need.
In a plastic bottle.
In a plastic bottle. Because there's no, I like to keep it classy. That's my goal here. Look at David. He even made special ice cubes for this. Look at that. Keith?
That's right.
I believe he did. Yes. I believe he did.
He made a trip or got on Amazon. I don't know.
Well, Rob, if we could, I would like to explore, if you have thoughts about it, or David too, the concept, like kind of tying in last week's discussion, the concept of grandiosity, the traditional thought of it, right? The traditional understanding of it is in a late infant, right, is grandiose. All the thoughts the infant, all the feelings, thoughts, whatever they may be, that the infant has are a projection and expansion of omnipotence, of grandiosity, right? That if I'm hungry, the primary object, the mother, the father, the caretaker, whoever they are, they come feed me. They fed me because I was hungry, not because it had anything to do with them. If I'm fussy and they come comfort me, it's because I had the feeling, I had the thought, I was fussy, and I was comforted. Ego is not yet established. An integrity of ego is not yet established. A boundary of ego is not yet established. A separation is not yet established between self and other. How do we link these concepts of what we know of early development to what's going on in the nation now?
David, I'm going to let you take a stab at this because I feel like I've said too many words so far. My word count's high.
Your word count is really high. I don't want to say that childhood development is what gets the way that a baby develops is how our country gets to cognitive dissonance at this point.
I do.
But I think going from this, the grandiosity, the narcissism, the link that I see is when you have these politicians, you have this environment where it's just say whatever. You have the environment where it's just get attention on you and say whatever you want or whatever you feel like saying. The issue with cognitive dissonance at that point becomes your reality is so modifiable because your memory is so modifiable. Whenever you hear something enough times, it really does change what you believe happened. And there is something to that when your core belief about yourself, about your party, about your environment is at odds with what you thought it was. And you think, because everyone believes they are the good guy. Nobody ever says, I'm on the bad side, ever.
I think it's important, right, that we kind of call out that It's an existential need to believe, not feel, right? But believe you're on the good side. Nobody wants to be on the bad side.
Right.
I mean,
well, you have to. The only
nobody.
person
I do.
that you have to live with is you,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's the only.
Yeah, but I think more importantly, the group you're associated with. If I was, I don't know, I was raised in the 70s and 80s. World War II was still looming large. The Third Reich was considered bad categorically. But at the same time, no way all the folks in Germany were bad people, right? What would happen if a bunch of American folks were in the same position as the German folks back in 1939, 38, 41?
I'm saying it. Nazis.
Nobody wants to believe.
Yeah.
Right? They're a bad
I think
person doing bad things, even if the things they're doing are bad.
But that is what cognitive dissonance is.
It is.
Say more about that. Say more about that.
But that's exactly what that is, right? Is that when you let's take that down to a more basic level. Whenever you are sitting in your office in your regular
that's pretty
job,
basic, David. Like most people have an office.
No,
yeah.
Well, you're sitting in your job and you are sending an email to whoever that is not work related.
Mhm.
You are technically stealing time from your job, but you don't consider that a bad thing. You
Right.
think, well, it's fine. And technically it isn't. But are you a bad person? You don't consider yourself a bad person, but there is some cognitive dissonance there, because if you were, if you're sitting on and playing on Facebook, you're probably, that's time theft. But
easily
that is
rectified.
right.
Here's the thing, and I have this sense that part of the problem is that we have drifted into this focus on national politics, and nationally we are all coming at it in an infantile stance. We have such little power to affect national politics. We can vote every 4 years, 2 years, but ultimately, because we have little power to affect it, we end up regressing on a political stance. We end up regressing to an infantile stance. And if you think about an infantile stance, it is omnipotence. It is what Keith just described, that these things happen because I want them to happen. There is no distinction between me and them. And then when something bad happens, what's left for that infant to do is to incorporate that into their thought processes, rather than, hey, they're messed up. They have to think about it in terms of, what did I do to cause this? Now, we're also adults, so just in and of itself, this distinction between the national, in which we have zero power, and the local, in which we have much more power. And when I reference local, I'm not just talking about our municipalities we live in. I'm talking about our houses and our families, in which we have infinitely more power. That is a dissonance, and you see it. You see it constantly. You see. How many times have you seen politicians win over a bunch of people because they want to equate national governance with how you would govern your home? And it's just not, there's no connection there. You don't make your own money in your own home. You don't have to worry about defense in your own home. There is no connection, but it is such a constant trope in national politics to be budget, this is how we have to do it, because this is how, if you only had $400 and you were not going to spend $400 on food, you've got to, and that is not how it works at the national level, which creates a dissonance. And it's much more comfortable for us to pull it back to our households, pull it back to how we govern our households, and see things that way. And when things shoot out from the left and the right that don't fit in how we govern our households, it puts us in a difficult spot.
I think you said a couple of things. You said, we don't.
You said way more than a couple of things.
We don't.
Well,
we don't.
Said a lot.
We don't have to defend our own households. I think a lot of people feel like they have to.
Says the man with the Texas hat.
Yeah, I'm not. It isn't. I feel the same feeling, but I also feel
the man
like
with the Texas hat.
I'm not sure that's true all the time, right? But I think Robbie bring up points that are fascinating. Like when you get points from the left, you get points from the right that are categorically non-hostile homogenizable. You cannot align them. You cannot blend them. You can't make them sit together in the same room. So what's a person to do, right? They have to pick one or the other. I mean, they don't have to, but our biology, the concepts we're talking about here, the biology demands it. I think that's a real problem. There's no sense of agency or integrating action for the national ego, right? If we want to kind of step back and talk about ego integrity or narcissism, projection, grandiosity, whatnot, there's no integrating function that allows, there's nothing that sits in the middle, right? There's no good enough parent that sits in the middle and says, yeah, I hear you heard this, I hear you heard that, but how about this? We don't have that, right? We have what we have. And I think a lot of it probably comes from cable news and social media. And those are all, for better or for worse, those are all profit driven, which means the more attention they get, the more money they make. And so their natural incentive is to get more attention. But that doesn't help us as a people, doesn't help us as a nation to integrate and make sense of the concepts, the ideas, the things that are coming in that are different from one another. And I think all of us, I know in my own practice, psychotherapeutically, psychiatrically, most of the folks that I see want to have some help, no matter what their views of the world are. I mean, people are just people. They want to have some help with, how do I make sense of X and Y, and they sound different, and I feel in the middle. And we don't have that as a nation. And I think that is an existential crisis for the nation. I think it's an ego crisis for the nation. I think most people lack a sense of self-agency, or how to have a sense of internal power. Take that power back, do things on your own, make a sense of what's good for me, what's not good for me, because I think that's okay, regardless of what others may say. And there's just nothing right now that's helping us kind of conceptualize and encapsulate that as a society of the United States of America. And ideally, we are a society. We are a nation state of the United States of America. But right now, it feels like, I'm not sure, right? There's a lot of factions that are infighting. And existentially, I think it's a crisis, right? Which then lends itself to much more primitive psychological impulses.
So David, you really seem like you need something. I got
a joke. Okay, so there's a great book. It's called Mistakes Were Made, But Not by Me. Written in actually 2007 with a couple of updates.
I wrote that.
Most recent one. Yeah. Written by Carol Tavris and Elliot Aronson.
It's actually
it's a great book. The most recent update was in 2000, was the 3rd edition. I do not know if there'll be a 4th edition, but I will be very interested to see whether there will be. It's
the story of my life.
Yeah, it really is. It's a great read, but where I would venture to guess where you go from the grandiosity down to this level of cognitive dissonance is this, and where they talk about, or where you get this is when that cognitive dissonance drives you to have that discomfort of saying, I don't necessarily agree, but it's my side saying it. I don't know that this is a conflict within me. There is something that is happening. There's this grandiosity. Something is going on, and there is a movement that is happening. And a line in the sand has been crossed. You have two options at that point. You can disavow and you can leave, or you can go along with it, which is what you said. But when you go along with it, right? You've gone along with it. And when that continually happens, which is what has been happening, now all of a sudden you do have these factions, and that's where we're at. And that is really what we're seeing now, but it has escalated. And why has it escalated so much in the last? Because it is certainly something that has been part of the political environment since the invention of, let's really honestly, television, right? Like this has been something part of the political environment since televisions have been in, more than likely. Like that is what we've really seen. But it has escalated. It has exponentially grown since the internet and social media. Smash that subscribe button.
Right.
Get into our socials, right?
Yeah, talk about cognitive dissonance. The fact that we're on socials creates cognitive dissonance in me.
How about being board certified in addiction medicine while sitting here with a bourbon? That's talking about psychiatry.
Cognitive dissonance right there.
Why not, right?
So one, I'm going to take a moment And I'm going to tell you guys that it's a real pleasure to actually engage with folks who are just so damn smart. And it is fun.
But it's also fun to talk to us. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
You're
Thanks,
right.
Warren.
Right. And the smart people are coming later. But for right now, I got you guys.
That'll be on one of your other
right,
topics.
Right.
One of your other podcasts.
And I have a group of people that I meet in a alley behind a dumpster who have their own sets of smarts. But no, it's a good time.
The furries, right? Is that
yeah. Well, yeah, we're gonna come back to furries.
We're supposed to talk about that one.
No.
Okay.
And if anyone catches that reference who actually listens to this, I feel like I need to buy them a drink. So no, it's a great joy to engage with folks that have such learned knowledge and intelligence. And I enjoyed a great deal because you each are coming this at a different angle. And it's an angle that's different than the angle that I keep wanting to come to. And it's expanding my understanding. And I appreciate that. But so in a system such as ours, we have this national ego, which ends up being the leader. Whoever the leader is becomes our ego, becomes the manifestation of us. And because of social media, smash that button, like, join, subscribe, whatever, do all the things. But because we have now this direct connection to their Facebook page, their Twitter account, or X account, their whatever, when they do dances on.
Thanks, Grandpa.
As far as I can tell, the only thing kids do on TikTok is dances. That's
kids.
The kids.
No, you're right. It's a dance app. That's all it is. It's a dance app. Yes.
But it doesn't. It does intensify this sense that we are.
You still have a Friendster account?
I've got a MySpace, dude. I mean,
I know.
I just updated it yesterday.
Tom is my best friend.
No, I changed the background. It was not seizure inducing enough, and I went in and I thought, people need to have more seizures.
What's the song on it?
It's Richard Marx.
Well, let's hear about your senses.
Yeah, would you let me get to my point before I forget it? So because of the nature of social media, we have a sense. And when I say we, I'm talking about our nation, our everybody. But we have a sense that we have a connection to the top. We're not. We're not connected to the top. Not at all. Just because we have somebody who's posting things and it comes directly to our feed, they didn't think, hey, I got to send Rob a message. It's just Rob, he's right there with us and I'm sending him something. We're not connected. And I believe that the dissonance that comes from that, the fact that, if I go back 70 years ago, you could be a Republican, you could be a Democrat, you could be whatever you wanted to be, but you knew you were way low on the totem pole. You were down there. And I don't think you got invested in it in the way that folks get invested now. And I think it's a problem. And I think one of the underlying issues that I'm probably going to talk about every time I can is that we sit at a crux, at a crossroads, at a point in which the ability to connect extends beyond what we can handle. From a psychodynamic standpoint, we cannot handle this. We can't handle having the president of the United States' feed come directly to us without us feeling like, oh, we're a part of this. And we're not. We're just not. We're observers. We're spectators.
Yeah. I think I agree. It's a huge responsibility and confusing for anybody to believe that they know anybody that is on social media. They only see what that person wants them to see, and it's not real. It's just not. Except for us, we're real, right? No, we're showing you everything. Yeah, everything, right? One of the things that we haven't actually mentioned, and I think it is important to bring up, is that with cognitive dissonance, everybody has it. Everybody. I have it. You have it. It's something that I think we've alluded to that, but it is needs to be said that if you are human, if you are listening to this, if you are alive, you are going to experience this conflict in
In
some
the
way.
last day, there's
Yes.
when you set up, I mean, if you're running a family and you're telling your kids this is the right thing, and then you're doing something that's different than that, I mean, it creates cognitive dissonance. It is a everyday experience for us, and we all have to navigate it. And we all have to figure out how a way to incorporate it into our ego. And you can scream at your kids, you can kick the dog. I don't recommend either. It's you know, don't scream at your kids. Talk at them reasonably, and for God's sakes, don't kick your dog. But it is a thing that every human deals with, and we probably have always dealt with. It's just that it's so much more intense, largely because we think we're connected to a bigger thing than we really are.
And it's so uncomfortable to think that and really going back, like you go back and we have lived, like if you, right now, you have grown up as a part of a country that has really thrived on being number one, at least from our perspective, right? Like you said this before, right? That
USA.
champion of USA. Yeah, we have really held ourselves to that highest standard of being the best.
God, and it freaks us
And
out when something presents itself in which we're not the best.
we have to win the Olympics. We don't like it if we don't win every race, right? We don't like it.
If we're
We have
not, the ratings go down.
then
We can't
what
even
is
stand watching it.
if whenever I love, and you know this about me, I absolutely love
Losers.
the NFL. I love the NFL. I love the NFL. You know that about me. And what do we call the winner of the Super Bowl every year? They are the world champs, right? The world champion Super Bowl winner.
It ain't a lie.
Who the hell else plays in the Super Bowl but American teams?
Dude,
We have built up
I have a game.
our
I have a game that we play just within my family, and every year we have a little tournament, and whoever wins is the world champ because no one else friggin' plays it.
nobody else is invited, and that's just it. We have been so successful as a nation for
My
so
son's the
long.
current world champ, by the way. I'm very proud of him. He's the world champ.
Economically, we've been so successful that we have been at the top. But there creates that situation that when your team is winning, and that comes down to politics, when your team is winning, it gets really uncomfortable if your team starts to do things that maybe you aren't always fully comfortable with. And so you start to look the other way
Now,
and start to paint it in different, and that applies to both sides, by the way. That isn't one side. This
absolutely.
is both sides, right? And this has been going on for a long time. This is not a now situation. This has been for a long time. And I think that is where cognitive dissonance has been playing a huge role in politics since the television has played a role. But again, the book that I spoke about earlier really calls out LBJ. It calls out George W. Bush a lot as well. But the reason I bring up the fact that it applies to all of us is that on one hand, there is a sort of a hopelessness to that, is that we're all going to fall victim to cognitive dissonance, right? And now that I'm starting to slur my speech, I think I've had almost enough bourbon, but I move on. We're all going to fall victim to it all the time because we're going to do things that are uncomfortable. The studies showed, however, that people who voluntarily participated in activities that had a lot of pain associated with them were much more likely to continue to participate. In fact, we're much more likely to not just participate, but enjoy participating. The counter to that was that the people who were not voluntarily participating in something that had a lot of pain associated with it were actually much more likely to not.
So,
and what that says to me is that there is an out. Just because your side is doing something that is uncomfortable and it's on your side, it doesn't mean you have to go along with it. Just because we are all potentially victims of that cognitive dissonance doesn't mean we have to continue to be.
Right. And I'm going to hit Keith on this one because actually of the three of us, Keith has much more pure psychotherapy experience. And my question to you is, when you were seeing patient after patient after patient, day after day after day, doing pure psychotherapy, what was it from your standpoint when you observed this, that the amount of cognitive dissonance that an individual had to experience? Because ultimately, I think that's what brings folks to us. They're just filled with misery, that when we get down to it, it's the dissonance between who they think they are and who they want to be, the decisions they're making, whatever. What made the difference? And really what I'm translating this to is, what makes the difference for somebody to change a party, to change a voting style? Keith.
What made the difference? When you say difference, what are you thinking, Rob?
That tipping point, that point where there's the old behavior, there's the new behavior. There's the old way of living and seeing things and being stuck in it and being miserable about it. And then there's a shift. So from your standpoint, when you were seeing individuals, then we're going to extrapolate that individual experience to a national thing, millions of people making this change. What drove people?
Well, to stay on the individual level, such a good question. I think the crux of it is, right, the level of dissonance. You have to get a good sense of a person's ego integrity first. You have to. It's a physician first does no harm. So if you want to help a patient or an analyst, if you're the analyst and then the analyst, if you want to help a patient become more integrated, have a stronger sense of agency, you've really got to you must first have a sense of how strong is their sense of ego integrity. And if it's not super strong, if there's everyone has some weaknesses and whatever, you cannot try to poke holes in the easy places. So all of us have varying levels of dissonance on different things. I think as the therapist, you've got to know where you want to focus your challenge to the dissonance, where their ego integrity can weather it. And it's got to be a tolerable weathering. Otherwise, you're just being harmful and sadistic, which, right, is first do no harm. That would just be harmful. So I think your question was, what was the tipping point? I'm not sure there is a tipping point. I'm not sure there's an aha moment. I think that's the boring part of psychotherapy, is if you're with a psychotherapist for, let's say, 7-10 years, there are 30 tipping points. All of them may feel like small wins or small glimpses into something you never saw before, but when they all add up, it does end up changing to a change in character, which is underpinned by the change of someone's self-agency, a difference of ego, a difference of a sense of self. I mean, we keep throwing this word ego around. I think it's just easier to say ego means a sense of who I am. Who am I in my day-to-day life, right? When I get up, I check my alarm, brush my teeth, I drive my car, whatever it is I do. That's my sense of self. What's on my list today? Do I have to do laundry? But in our quiet times, things bother us. Dissonance comes in, gives us anxiety, gives us depression, gives us crises in our personal lives, no matter how they present. And the work of the therapist is to try to bring in your past life, your current thoughts, and your current dissonance, your current crisis, and see how they line up. If somebody has very little, say someone has a fair amount of dissonance, but a strong sense of ego and who they are, and it seems healthy and appropriate and robust, you can hit it pretty strong, and they can maybe make some really big strides quick. If someone's rather fragile and they're holding on to a fantasy of how the world works, you're going to have to hang in there for years.
Well,
which I don't know how to square that circle to your very good question.
No, I think you hit exactly what I was needing, because I didn't have the knowledge, I didn't have the words, but you hit something that, so we are a nation of millions that are led by individuals, and our ego integrity ends up being the lowest common denominator. And that point that you made there, which I mean, it was perfect, was the tolerable weathering, that you can't push people to go beyond what's tolerable. So we can disagree with others, but if that disagreement sits at a place that is beyond what they can tolerate, it's not going to resonate. And it's not going to result in change. It's not going to make them expand. They're going to respond to us with fervor. And fervor is dangerous.
We should start drinking every time you say fervor.
I like it. I like it like it comes out of my mouth.
So I got 2.
Yeah, fervor. Fervor, fervor, fervor.
Yeah, to your point, Rob, again, how do you cast this on a national level? Franz Kohut's ideas, which were an extension of Sigmund Freud, but probably an expansion and an improvement, right? Like,
Yep.
Made it better. There was this concept
He didn't talk about nearly as many penises.
Didn't talk about penises.
Well, there's a flaw right there.
I don't think at all, which it's a nice reprieve.
So it was a reprieve from penises. I get tired of them.
I mean,
talk, and then
so
probably,
much
if any
on the penises.
If anybody listening to this that is psychologically interested, they probably know a lot about Carl Rogers and probably see him as the father of a lot of the psychology we do. But the Franz Kohut folks came before that and led to Carl Rogers. His whole concept, right, was that empathy itself, empathy being really putting yourself in another person's shoes as best as you can, really trying to feel like, what would it be like to be this person at that time without judgment, restriction? That in itself, which is a core parental task, which is hard to teach, but it is the core parental task for the parent to be empathic to the infant or the child or the young kid or adolescent. The act of empathy itself is ego building and empathic given enough time and exposure to it. If you're living enough clean air and have a good enough clean water and good diet, right? The concept of if you're just exposed to enough true empathy over time, your sense of self and ego will become healthier, strong, more robust, more resilient, more able to take in faults and truths and make your own decision, regardless of what the group says. That was a concept that Freud didn't come up with. That was a concept that came after him. How we extend that to a national level, I have no idea.
Well, and our leaders do not provide that kind of empathy. It's not in their best interest to provide that kind of empathy. Occasionally, we will have a leader that will say, I am the governor, I am the senator, I am the whatever of everyone, everybody in my district, whether they voted for me or they didn't vote for me, I'm their leader. And I'm going to do the best I can for all of them. And it's okay that they didn't vote for me. Occasionally, we'll have that kind of leader. But it is a rarity. That it's unicorn rare and twice as magic. I mean, it's just not, it just doesn't happen. And when it does, it feels so right, but it doesn't happen.
And it's not necessarily, I mean, it really not our job or goal to change leaders. I mean, it's for why are we here? We're here talking to people. And
we're not going to change the leaders. We're not going to change the leaders, but what we want to, I think the crux of what we're doing is we want folks to understand that relationship they have with their leaders.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. That's what I want to convey with that tie between that grandiosity and the cognitive dissonance that all of us experience, and that ability to change yourself. Understand that is that you may find yourself, as we all have, miles down the path, having crossed a lot of lines that I certainly maybe didn't realize I intended to cross. But at some point coming to and saying, shit, I didn't mean to. But that doesn't mean that I have to keep going down that same path, because at some point, as you brought up, there can be that tipping point. There can be that point to say, you know what, enough is enough. Everybody has that kind of idealized being, that person, that whatever it is that they think is correct. And it doesn't always play out. I mean, it doesn't always have to. And you are free to say, you know what, I was wrong, and find a different path and come somewhere and go elsewhere. You have that ability. And that's the freedom of choice. We're all capable. We're actually, I think, without without intention, I think without that thought process, we're all going to fall victim to that cognitive dissonance. Everybody. But when you stop and think about, is this who I am? You might actually find that, no, it isn't. This isn't really what I believe. This is just what I've been going with because I wanted to believe. It isn't, nobody is necessarily going to rescue you but yourself, because you're the only one who really can in some situations, right? Unfortunately.
Well, let's give the folks a little bit more of what they want, maybe. Let's take an example.
All right, take your shirt off, Keith.
Yeah, let's
Hey,
I don't
get naked, buddy.
I think that
Just
is
do it.
that is what
No, just
what
a
they
shirt.
want. Let's take
Bounce
an
those
example.
pecs.
I think a really easy example, easy in the sense it's common, it's in our face, at least where I live. There's a lot of folks that immigrate from Central South America into much of the United States and do a lot of the work. At the national level, you see a policy saying no to that, just no. At a personal level, if you ask the individual people that are purportedly supporting that position, they'll say yes, right? So in their own life, there's a direct dissonance. Perhaps some of them have someone cleaning their house or working on their yard or doing their roof, or maybe they're friends and they come over on the weekend, whatever it may be. But I think as a nation, there's a real split of we've become accustomed to this. We're saying no to it, but at the same time, at a national level, I say no. At a personal level, I say yes. What do we do with that? How do we think about that in terms of the concepts we're talking today, and what are the remedies? I don't have a great answer, but it's a question I think about a lot.
I do as well. And I guess that brings us to prescriptions, actually, given the timing here. And it's a struggle for me because I've thought about this entire week in terms of cognitive dissonance, and you just nailed the scenario that I have been thinking about. Is that I have a guy who works for me, and I like him, and I like the work he does, but he's illegal. He's not here legally, but he is a hard worker, and I can't get anyone else to do the job for me, and the price is right. How do we rectify that? Because on an individual level, I know the right decision. On a national level, when you extrapolate out, and we're going with Kantian philosophy here, is this a rule that we can apply to everyone? And this is where we struggle. This is the cognitive dissonance that we struggle with.
You can't get anybody else to give you a massage, dude.
It's rough. It's hard.
I mean, with that thing,
I
get it.
I have high expectations. And this is the conclusion I came to. And this is the cognitive dissonance that I struggle with. I don't have an answer. I do not have an answer. That the right thing for me on a personal level, on a human level, may not be the right thing from a national policy standpoint. And that might suck. That may not hit all the points that I want to hit from a human standpoint. It may not make me feel good.
Well, I think we're pushed a little bit to think things like this are not in our national interest. I'm not sure how we've come to the concept of this is not our national. The fact that talk about cognitive dissonance as a nation, the world wants to flock here. They do.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful thing. What more would a nation want to have folks beating at their door
to come in?
Appreciate. Yeah, totally appreciate. There has to be some orderliness about that, but not hate.
No.
It's why I live in this nation, as my predecessors wanted to come here. That's why I'm here.
Absolutely.
Right? And
God knows my family got kicked out of wherever they were.
Yeah, and I'm grateful I'm here. The dissonance of now reject others who want to do a full day's work for whatever pay is tough to swallow. And I worry, by some of your comments, Rob, I worry that if that message comes along too long, we just think oh, well, it is, we have to really think about the nation. Well, maybe we've soiled how we think about the benefit of the nation. I think in some ways a nation is as strong as its immigrant influx in population. That's what builds nations. You can't just, this is regardless of politics, it sincerely is. You can't seal off your walls and say, we're going to make a great nation and just seal it off. You just can't. You're going to become too insular, and You're not going to have good ego integrity because you're not going to have any challenges to it. You're going to have a lot of resonance from the walls that echo back, and you're just not going to have a lot of good insight. But in terms of a prescription, like I know we were talking about ego integrity, and if you look at Ericksonian's ideas, it comes at the end of life. If I missed Dr. probably Erickson wrote it out in a nice chart, but they don't all come in a nice flow from top to bottom. But that is listed at the bottom of the flow, where you look at one's regrets, you look at one's choices in life, and you hope at the end of the day you can integrate that all into a meaningful life. I think as a nation, ideally the Congress takes a stock, because they are the representative.
They're not going to.
Of the republic. How the people as a mass and as a people, how the people take a stock of a national sense. I think there was a time, I don't know if it was all the time, right, but maybe there were some nice, bright, shining times when the Congress would take a stock, or perhaps the president would take a stock of what are our regrets, what are we proud of, who are we as a group, and where have we gone wrong, what have we done well, and can we rest well at the end of the day in the sense of an integral, cohesive, robust, stable sense of who I am as an ego or as a person. I think we all need that. I know I do. I would want my government to help me feel better about who I am at the end of the day. I don't feel like it's doing it now.
Well,
what to do about that? Oh my gosh.
We're going to leave it to David to be ridiculous.
Every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
Because you just nailed something, actually, that I left out. I left out completely.
Did you even give one?
I did, but it was it was soft. It was soft.
Well, just give us.
It was. Here's my thing. History can be our guide on this one. All you have to do is really read history and what has immigration done for us. What has immigration done for the United States in the span of our history? And I think the answer ends up being clear. And I was waffling. I'm not gonna waffle this time. I'm gonna say my sense of what's right locally may well be what's right as a policy. David, be ridiculous.
All right, I will be ridiculous.
You're good at it,
as
man.
I do. I always do. All right. So I got 2 prescriptions for the ridiculous. First of all, prescribing shot collars for everybody that go off every time you contradict yourself.
God. Jesus, I've been shocked 8 times just in this episode.
You're welcome. Yeah, shot collars.
It will give me empathy to my dog.
No doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Who wears a shot collar.
You got me.
We don't hit. And then you smack your kid. The 80s were a beautiful time. And then, I think this one, a congressional apology boot camp led by R. Lee Ermey.
Is he still alive?
I don't care. Animate him. Whatever. I mean, this isn't real. Like, is he?
You're right.
Look it up.
You're right.
Say more about him.
He'd be great. R. Lee Ermey, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't he the
Only
Gunnery Sergeant Hartman? He'd have to be in character, obviously. You know what? I don't know if I prefer him in character from Full Metal Jacket or when he was in Saving Silverman.
Saving
Silverman.
It's like, I'll find something.
Yeah, either or. I think either.
What should
or
we
both.
do? Kill her. Yeah.
Both movies. I think both.
Yeah, there's something powerful, right? When a parent says to the child, we did wrong. I did wrong. And I apologize. And here's how we're going to do different and better. That's powerful. I think that's what you're getting at, Dave.
I think so too. And there's also something really powerful that when an authority figure tells you that if there are not impulses that you can't quell with hard liquor, use this.
Yes, I'm glad we tried to make my absurd, silly prescriptions as real.
I don't think David's
meaningful as possible.
Are an extension of
they are
right.
And I don't believe Keith's ever seen Saving Silverman, so it's just me and you, buddy. It's just me and you.
Yeah, it's a great movie. All right. Well,
Neil Diamond rocks.
For the
I'm gonna sing Cherry Cherry to take us out.
Yeah.
Please
don't. Do. We won't get to post it.
Okay.
Please don't get. Yeah, you're gonna get us. All right. Well, again, thanks to everybody who stuck around. This was another fun episode of Shrink the Nation. Next time we are going to it's ego integrity. So hopefully we haven't
And I'm going to warn the audience. I am going to probably be hit and miss coming up, and it might be just you guys. I have full faith
we'll
and
get you. We'll get a
full
scab
faith and
for sure.
confidence.
I'll scab you. I'll get a replacement.
I am leaving the country for non-ice related reasons.
No,
nobody's worried. Nobody's worried.
Rob will be out there with a full mask. He's going to be beating hippies. That's the plan.
I shall set up a shop and locations unknown, and we'll be back.
We can't wait to hear more about it, and we appreciate your dedication, Rob, and that you've raised my interest of where you might be.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I will come to you from the deepest, darkest.
Well, the next episode is ego integrity, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if I can figure out my chariot analogy is solid.
No, it's bad. It's terrible, and I need you to work on it.
Shut up. It's fine.
I think you're in the minority.
Yeah. It's fine. You've been outvoted.
The superego is
No. Don't even start again. It's awful. It was bad from the beginning. I tried to help you along.
No, it's fine. Shut up.
Cue the music.
It's all fine. Anyway, so smash that subscribe button. We still have our socials. Smash it. We got Facebook. We have X. We got TikTok. For some reason, we have TikTok. I don't know. We'll have something on there. We got Rob dancing. Do a little dance so we can put it on TikTok.
Hell yeah.
Dance, Rob.
I'm dancing.
Dance.
For the purposes of this podcast, I am dancing like a goddamn fool.
Yeah, that's right. All right. We also Instagram.
Safe travels, Rob.
All right. Hit us up socials at shrinkthenation.com. Send us some questions. If you have any comments, why not ask away? We'll try to answer. I probably won't be able to answer them, but whatever. And that's it. Cue up the music. Hit it. There it goes. All right. Next time, gentlemen.
Later.
We'll see you. Bye.